Alright guys, what we're going to be tying here is a stonefly nymph. Pretty, not a basic stonefly nymph, but a pretty effective stonefly nymph. And this takes me a while, so I'm going to go pretty quickly as I tie it. As you can see, I've already got a little bit of lead weight tied on. I also like to tie this fly with a bead head, but this one I'm going to tie without it, just with a little bit of lead weight. So go ahead and get started. I'm tying it on a size 8 streamer hook. We've moved our thread all the way to the back. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put a little dubbing bump right at the tail. And so I grab a little piece of, I'm just using, I think this is frog hair dubbing. Twist it around. I don't use dubbing wax. We're just going to build up a small dubbing bump right back at the tail. Now the reason why we do that is so that our biots, our goose biots, which we're using black goose biots, will flare out when we tie them down. So I've tied down one on one side. I'm going to tie that all the way up. Trim it off. And we'll tie down one on the other side, and then I'll show you what that looks like from the top. Okay, there's our second one. And what that should look like is, should look about like that. So our two goose biots, that's going to make up the tail of our stonefly flare out. Okay, next thing we're going to tie down is our rib, and we're going to use silver wire for the rib. You could probably use gold wire too if you wanted. And I'm just using small because that's what I had handy. So we tie down the wire. All the way back right above the dubbing bump, and then for the abdomen of this fly, I'm going to use chenille. I'm actually going to use some small chenille, and go ahead and tie that down. And bring our thread up to right up about where our lead weight is. Now go ahead and wrap the chenille. We're going to go up to just a little past halfway. Tie it and trim it off. Wrap your wire. Tie that off. And then we're going to grab some squirrel dubbing. This is where we're going to build up our thorax. So grab a little bit of, actually a decent sized clump of squirrel dubbing. And you don't want that twisted too tight around the hook because we want it to be a bit bushy. So that when we pull it out, it looks fairly buggy. And there's my first clump. Now what I've done is I've pre-cut some pieces of black thin skin, and that's what we're going to use to make our wing casing. So I'll take my first one, lay it down over the top, and secure that down good and tight. And then we're going to do basically repeat that process. So grab another clump of dubbing. Twist it around. Wrap that around the hook. And let's get a little bit more. got another piece of black thin skin. I'm going to lay that one down. Get that down good and tight. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do, that's all we're going to use for our wing casing. Next thing we'll do is we'll tie in our antenna, which we're using black goose buyouts again. So lay it down, lay one down on one side of the eye, fasten it down, lay the other one down on the other side of the eye, screw that one down, and then trim the tag ends. And to clean that up a little bit, we're going to take another small piece of dubbing. And this can be wrapped a little bit tighter than the one before. And dub over the top of that. Grab your whip finisher. And slip a few whip finishes right behind the eye of the hook. Trim it off, and there you go. You can take and you can kind of pull out. A lot of people use a bodkin. Usually I use a piece of Velcro, but I can't find my piece of Velcro right now. Kind of pull out some of those hairs, and it should help it look a little bit more buggy. And what this thing's going to look like from the top is, you can see we've got our two antennae at the top, and we've got our tails at the back, and then we've got our wing casings up on top. And that's all there is to it. That's just a really basic black Stonefly.